Well, welcome everyone to another episode of Safe Conversations. We're thrilled that you have joined in with us. Paul, how are you doing?
Good.
Doing well?
Good. Ready to jump back into this attachment adult relationship stuff.
This has just been very helpful. I think folks will find this extremely helpful. And remember, one thing that we've talked about encouraging folks to do is to just kind of email us some questions. And at the eastsidechurch.com, you go there into the office and just send a question about something you've
that'd be good.
heard, and we'll try to address it. But I can't think from a standpoint of our faith, something that's more important than relationships. I mean, if the command Jesus gave us to love one another, then this is some kind of discipleship stuff here, Paul, really. I mean, helping us become more like Christ, understanding ourselves, the attachment styles, relationship styles that you talked about in the previous episode. And, the secure style that you mentioned, that's great. Then we had some that were...
Not that we know any of those people.
Yeah, like there's perfect people. Avoidant styles and anxious styles, and then the mixed. Yes. And when we left off discussing last time, you were talking about repair work. When you maybe avoid it, I had confessed, I think that would pretty well define me quite well as anxious sometimes as well. But how do you repair? So what do you mean when you say repair work? And what does it mean? What does it look like? How do you do it?
Yeah, I would say a major component of the repair is a new experience with a person. What the brain records is a feeling sense, a body sense, an image type sense, sort of an idea, a cognitive thought about an experience. All of that would make an experience. And when a child has an experience like me where you end up being anxious, what I need is someone to be more stable and secure so I can experience that. Now, telling me I shouldn't be anxious is helpful cognitive stuff, but I need a experience to repair that experience. So when we look at Jesus giving people a different experience of a human in his humanity, that really fits with this. So it's not just I read the book on attachment style, which even though that's a good thing, and I've read plenty of those, but the experience with Terry, because a little bit of a disclosure to let people see how the repair happened. I got close enough to her that I had an opportunity to access the old pain. So she becomes a safe haven, a secure base enough, and I'm not thinking that at the time. I don't have these categories in my mind. I'm about 38, and this information sure hasn't hit the Christian counseling field like it is, or the counseling field like it is today. And I have a breakdown where my anxiety gets just off the charts, outside any tolerable level. And the first thing I say to her, I have a literal sort of physical collapsing that happens for people who've ever had that sort of experience. And the first thing I asked my wife after this was, "Are you going to leave me?" And of course, she looks incredulous, like I'm psycho, which I probably was at that point. That was a little...
Listen, I'm caught up in the pain of your story. So,
So
what I appreciate is the vulnerability of you telling the story. So I think there's a little bit of that's just like, wow, he's really letting us into some private stuff there. So when the humor came, I was a little...
poor planning on the speaker's stuff. Well, anyway, so I asked her that. And if you think of, if I can jump us back to the models out of the story, because I will tell what happened, the anxious person is not sure. I was really not asking my wife if she would leave me. I was saying I was never sure anybody was going to be there for me. So when that pain, with a bit of a trauma history, which makes it more intense, came out, it actually came out in the present at her. I didn't know it had rootedness that deep. So that close relationship, when I was having a difficult time, allowed me to access that emotion. And what happened, now this is more extreme than maybe most people have had or want to admit because it's difficult when you have these, is that allowed me to experience her as safe. The look on her face was helpful to me. I mean, that look of, I don't know where you got that idea. Because I created that in my own mind from my childhood pain, applied it to the present, and thought it was her.
Right.
But she's going to be she's still the secure base. She didn't leave that night. She didn't leave the next night. No matter what my mind's saying, no matter how many times I want to ask her compulsively, because I'm accessing this. That and what I need help with is what I needed help with, or what I got help with, was differentiating those two, but leaning into the secure base. It felt very vulnerable, very, very scary, and it really helped with a stronger felt sense of God eventually, because my felt sense was very young, based around no one's going to be there. I'm going to be alone.
So the healing allowed you to access a deeper relationship with God.
It ends up getting there, the
Yeah.
felt sense, because up to that time, I only knew how to experience God from sort of that lens. Yeah, so, and I kept hoping that God was a lot like Terry. That's my wife. Now, that's upside down for some people theologically. It may even sound a little odd, but my attachment to her and the safety was one of my first experiences with that.
Yeah. You see, you're kind of, it's not that this just blows my mind, but I'm sitting here thinking, obviously you brought up connection with God, so you're in my line of work where that's what we're trying to help shepherd people to do. And we're trying to say, often the last few years, I'm trying to say, I'm going to keep painting a picture of God that's different than you may understand. And I want you to get security from him. And yet, I think what you're saying is a lot of people probably want that, what you're describing.
Sure.
They just can't access it.
Yeah, you can't. You're designed to have it. Where the attachment theories or relationship styles help me is they tell you what blocks it. So if a person is working in more of a spiritual vein, which is a really good piece of work, looking back and asking God for insight and help with what happened, what transpired, what kind of molded me into this adult person I am. Now, to help those spiritually or to encourage them, the Apostle Paul gives us some help with this in Philippians 3 when he starts talking about, I've counted all things lost, except for Christ. But earlier, what he's counting lost is that I was circumcised the 8th day, and tribe of Benjamin, Israelite, Pharisee. And then he says, a few verses down, counted all lost. He understood his history. Does that make sense? He understood what had shaped him. And so he could begin to put off, if you're thinking about I don't know how many safe conversations ago we talked about what does it mean to deny the self.
Right.
Well, you have to know, and then you can be intentional about that. The data that's out there, Fred, on earned attachment would say, one of my professors said, about 5 years of a healthy, very healthy marriage are about 3 years of therapy.
So the idea, when you use the phrase earned attachment, you're talking about repair.
Secure and earned, yes.
Yeah. You earn.
So it's not I didn't have that one moment, ask my wife, are you going to divorce me, and was fixed. I was moving, I was making progress. I needed that continual experience. In some ways, it tells me the power, like here at Eastside, of the C3 groups and the potential
Right.
for that reparative connect with somebody.
So I'm thinking to myself, if I'm listening to this, I'm going, okay, Paul had a mate that had a secure attachment style. So that helped him access his stuff because he found security in her. And so the repair there. But then if you're out there and you're saying, okay, I'm either single, so I don't have that, or my spouse is not secure attachment. We're both got attachment styles that,
Yes.
where do you go to get repair then? I mean, because if I'm understanding, yes, group will help and church, all these things are helping us, but
Yeah, is it depth enough? Probably is what I would say. Wherever your relationship, the people that you have relationships with, I would say to a couple that there are very specific approaches that counselors can take that repair attachment wounds. One is called emotionally focused couple therapy. There's another person named John Gottman who has a style that addresses that in different ways, but addresses that. The attachment emphasis is so strong and evident now that it's reshaping the way we see things through an attachment lens, is what we're being trained to do. So the couple, let's say they're an avoider and they're anxious, the therapy is basically going to try to help them see this cycle they have of we have a conflict, I run from you, you chase me, I run from you, you chase me. And they're going to attempt them to get underneath that cycle to those vulnerable emotions. And the first experience is always really awesome to experience with a couple when they both are sharing the vulnerable. Please, I don't want you to leave me. And the other one's going like, gosh, it scares me to death when you get so angry. But there's this almost like all the walls kind of fall down in front of you there. And what they experience in the brain is a right brain to right brain emotional body experience that has this huge sort of oxytocin, pregnant, excited, connected feeling to it. So the therapy is moving them down to that with the hopes that they can hang in there and begin to experience that different, the attachment needs being met and repaired. So for a couple, I would say there are models out there that that therapists can use, and there may be more. Those are the two I'm most familiar with.
so I'm thinking about the couple individuals listening, and they're going, okay, we're couples, we're not going to do couples therapy, or we can't, or whatever in their mind. They're like, couples therapy's out of reach for us.
Yeah.
So, and they're like, how do I access help? And so I'm thinking this way also, Paul. What about the person who's going, I don't know if my spouse is interested in all this, but I am.
Mm-hmm.
So how does a person who wants to just kind of come to that understanding of themselves, the way they act, the way they do, so that they can grow?
Mm-hmm.
And they can't really access a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
What do you suggest they do? What can they do?
Yeah. I would say I feel sad that they can't use that because it's out there. I understand because I'm one of those, the charges and all that. I would make an appeal to people. Could the marriage be made such a priority that things are trimmed down? I don't know if people think this way.
Oh, I think it's a good challenge. I
So
appreciate
they
you
could
doing
get
it.
access to
I mean,
that. I mean,
yeah.
But let's take it that they try that. It doesn't work. What I would say is that there are not a lot of other places in society that advertise for that thing, that would say, hey, come to me. I mean, there are relationship coaches that may have some of that skill set. They're going to be fee-based as well, with not able to use insurance
Right.
because of not state-regulated. It's sad that we're having to wrestle with, it's sad that there's not just 20 places we could say, hey, go get this.
Right.
It's not in our the socialization process. What I would say is people in a friendship of a certain type where someone understands this can become a secure base for a person.
Yeah.
The difficulty with marriage is how does that impact the stability of whatever is going on in the marriage, that this one person is now building this relationship with the other one, this outside party. Maybe
Right.
they don't care, but maybe they do.
Maybe they
so
do.
I would sort of give that as a qualifier. You know, you'd have to be aware of that. Yeah, you can get it in any relationship that can contain the sort of the feelings or lack of them, of the insecure attachment with someone that's secure,
Right.
and it becomes a place that you experience some of that.
Yeah, yeah, and so organically, you might be in a relationship with a friend that you're just with a friend, and you're actually picking things up from their, they're further down the road than you are,
Yes.
and you just pick it up.
Right.
Let me do this, Paul, if I could, because I think you touched on something that you and I had talked about doing. So, going to bring this one to a close, and as I do, I kind of want to reiterate what you were saying, that if marriage is a priority, which it should be, then being able to set aside some time and finances in order to get help, that even shouldn't be a question.
Right.
And I remember Rick Warren saying years ago, Paul, talking about his marriage that was crumbling. And again, financial people would probably flip at this, but he said, I maxed out whatever credit card I had in order to go get help to save my marriage. Mm-hmm. Instead of maxing it out on stuff, I maxed it, but I did it in order to get help for my marriage. And so what I do join with you in recommending couples, don't just turn that off. Give that thought in order to get that help. It will be so beneficial. And then next time we get together, Paul, if we could do something, and that is, you and I have talked about it, maybe we can talk about our relationship a little bit and how that has, when we talk about a friendship that lends itself to healing.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And maybe we can just kind of open up about that in a little more personal way, and
It
that
would
could help
fit
people.
real well with where we are right now.
That sound good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. We'll do that in our next time together. So again, thank you for joining us.